The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
It's a lovely day.
It is a lovely day, but it got colder.
It is. So we are at the end of summer, beginning of August, or beginning of autumn. And it's that time of year when it's like you have to wear sweaters and pants in the morning, and then you change into dresses in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't really wear too many dresses, but I will say the weather definitely changes. I know we're like some states, some people who might be listening in from different parts of the country, that your temperatures are very consistent. That is not the case in Pennsylvania. I felt like it was more consistent when I was a kid, but now it's like we get to experience all 4 seasons, the joke goes, in Pennsylvania in a single day. So if you'd like to experience that, come visit Pennsylvania and experience all of the seasons in one day.
I love that. Should be our new Commonwealth motto.
Yeah.
Come to Pennsylvania and experience all the seasons. Yes.
Yeah.
But in the sweetie world here, we are in February. We are in the cold season. We're coming to the end of winter. We had our lovely mega letter last week, and she detailed everything about Christmas.
She did.
It was huge. It was a long episode too.
It was. And we had to reference back some various stories of the past. Sweetie's really getting settled in Pennsylvania. She's been working on this for a few years, but she loves her new home. She loves being in Hatboro. She loves having the place where she gets to return. She even notes this in one of the letters that we just recently read, that she's happy when they turn the bend and she can see her house. And this gives her such a feeling of satisfaction. So we're glad that, like, Sweetie's in a good space with that. Chester, there's some stuff going on in Iowa. We've had some recent content. Everybody, please check out episodes 74 and 75, actually all the way back to 71, determination and cussedness. There's just a lot going on with Chester. We're not going to recap that here today unless Sweetie brings it up, because we've been talking about it a lot. But Chester will be back in a few episodes. We'll check in with Iowa. Yeah, we're going to start the year here in 1950, and there's some major changes. I don't want to spoil it for later in this episode, but there's a major domestic change that is going to happen here that's going to impact so many households over the course of the 50s. And I think some people can guess what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to leave it there. I have my coffee. Jamie, you have your coffee?
Oh, we got the coffee.
Awesome. So we're going to dive in here in a moment. Just a moment of housekeeping. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Love Sweetie podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome. You can jump into these episodes anywhere that you'd like to. We're now in the 50s, but hey, now there's over 75 episodes to go back to if you want the deep dive on everything Sweetie, especially through the 40s. And we're working on a little bit new content there, some new photos that have been discovered since the 40s started. We'll see if we can get those up on YouTube this week so people can catch up quickly. So if you're new, don't worry. We're going to be creating some content here to help you acclimate yourself to the Demaree family, to the Grahams, what's going on. If you're returning and if you're new, please click that subscribe button. And then to our audio listeners, we've been picking up new audio listeners there as well. Click the follow, download, whatever it is you click to be able to make sure that you know the new episodes of the Love Sweetie podcast are available. And then, of course, go to our website. Check it out at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com for all of the fun content there, the photo galleries, and everything else. But with that all out of the way, Jamie, I think we're going to dive into the chilly, frigid mornings of February 1950. February 10th, 1950. Dear Jean, you have surely delighted Louis with the valentines which we received this morning, and he wanted to write and thank you for them. He is deciding for himself who gets which one, and is chomping at the bit to get at them. I've persuaded him to wait till after lunch, so Daddy can see the book, and this afternoon we will get them ready. You're very thoughtful to send it to him. Did you receive the boxes I sent you? They were insured for $25 apiece, and I shall start a tracer on them if you haven't received them. Or am I getting a dose of my own medicine? I've got a case of flu, I guess. Cold and intestinal disturbance. We've sure used the sulfa bottle this winter. One of Lou's friends is interested in a new house and is coming Sunday evening to see ours with his wife and young son, so I must get ready for dress inspection. Thank you again for the Valentines. And write. Love, Sweetie.
A little postcard to start the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And do I get to say, can I say it this time?
Mm-hmm.
This is medicine that's from the 50s. So before you take anything or do anything, don't take any medical advice from these letters. Don't be going out running getting yourself this is all medical advice. Consult your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yay, I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. We get mention of 50s medicine a lot here, and we're going to hear it in this episode, the next episode, and on and on and on. Yeah, sulfa is really powerful and very regulated.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Sulfa is really powerful. So this letter, or this little postcard to Jean, was written about a week after her mega letter.
Yes.
So she hadn't heard anything for like a whole week.
Yeah, she put all that effort in. Well, maybe sister might still be reading the letter. So.
This is true. The sister might be reading the letter still. She might be breaking that up. So she might not have finished it yet. But yeah, Jean, yeah. She insured the boxes that she sent for $25 a piece. That just seems like a lot of money.
It's a lot, yeah. So she was really waiting to pack a lot of things into these boxes before sending them off. Because $25 right now to insure a box, I'm like, I don't know, shipping costs to me, it still seems kind of high, because the last we knew, she was sending some clothing back to Jean.
Yeah.
From the New Year's, and I'm like, I don't think clothing needs it. So there must have been something more in the box, basically, that she wanted to keep track of. But we get the idea that they can track the post, that they're doing insured mail at this time, which is really interesting. And then I love the little note here about the Valentines.
Yeah.
The little Lewis is like, I'm gonna pick which one goes where, and there's like a little book of them, and she's like, wait until your dad gets home at lunchtime. This little scene with the Valentines, I think, is adorable. Who knows where some of the Valentines get to, but Lewis is making the decisions now. So,
oh, he's getting so big.
Yep.
He's getting so big. But that was our first little letter.
Yep.
And we have another little postcard that she writes. Oh man, almost a week later too.
Yep. February 16th, 1950. Dear Jean, I received a note from Mama saying she'd gotten a blouse and pajamas. A note from M.A. saying she'd worn the jodhpurs, so I know the boxes arrived. But I ain't had a word from you. How come, Opie? I can't help but worry about you when you go so long without writing. Don't you like your job? Are you unhappy? I'm glad the folks sold the calves to eliminate hazardous trips out there to take care of them, but I thought they were going to butcher one. No doubt after writing this card to spur you on to writing, there will be a letter from you in this morning's mail. Well, if so, the card is well worth sending. I'll write a carbon again in a day or two. Write. Love, Sweetie. Yep.
I wonder what a jodhpur is.
A jodhpur, I think, is kind of like a trouser. So it's the old term. I had looked this up because I remember thinking, am I spelling this right when transcribing or handwriting? Yeah, it's a tight-fitting trouser to the ankle. So it's primarily used for horse riding. So think about like the girls who are into the equestrian activities and things like that. The jodhpur is kind of like that legging, that trouser. And that's what she sent out to MA out there.
Oh, well, that's nice. Okay. I thought they were shoes.
It sounds like a shoe, right? Like a spur. It has that idea of like the sound of a shoe. But yeah, it's a pant. I remember being like, same way. Same. It threw me off.
Jodhpur, it's just a funny word. So, but yeah, but I do really enjoy these letters because we do get a lot of vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
I would normally not come across. So I thought that was just another one. But yeah, so she still hasn't gotten any thing from Jean.
Jean, what gives? Come on,
Mm-hmm.
Jean. Don't make Sweetie. Don't give her anxiety. She's already got the inferiority complex throughout. She doesn't need that. But then she says at the end, I'm going to write a carbon. And just for any of our new listeners, we haven't talked about this for a little bit of time, but when she's talking about writing a carbon, this means she's going to be writing a big letter, but there's going to be multiple recipients. It used to be called onion paper. So she's going to be feeding through carbon paper through the typewriter so she can write a giant letter and then split off the copies and send multiple copies out. So when she's saying, I'm going to send a carbon, it means there's a family big letter coming. And she says, I'm going to write it in a day or two. And Jamie, she writes it the next day.
All right.
County Line Road, Hatboro, Pennsylvania, February 17th, 1950. Dear Mama, Papa, Jean, sisters, Franks, and Florence, have received this week a letter from Mama, sister, M.A., and Jean, and Jean's letter this morning has pleased me so that I shall sit down right now in dust and debris and unwashed dishes to get it answered quickly, and contrary to the usual procedure, I shall start with answering her letter, rather than leaving it to the last, as I usually do. First, though, I have meant to tell you, I found some time ago that Louis had a cavity in a lower molar, and didn't want to let it go too long, so when my neighbor went to the dentist, I hitched a ride along with her. I was surprised and almost ashamed to find he had 3 teeth that needed filling, and 1 tooth had 2 cavities. Of course, I did tell him that the dentist was going to fix his teeth, and described the process as best I could, determined that he should not get there and then be unprepared and hurt besides. I was really proud of him, and yet he was somewhat accusing towards me, for the drilling does hurt some. The dentist was a nice young man with a lot of patience with children, and so it all came off pretty well. He asked me what made the holes in his teeth, and I explained too much candy or going to bed with sugar in his teeth, and various other things, and he is quite reasonable now. When I say no more candy, it is hard on your teeth. He can recall the dentist trip, and doesn't pester me to death as he used to. He proudly displayed his new fillings that the dentist filled up the holes with, though he startled a few people by a wide-open mouth approach and unintelligible mumblings about what the dentist had done. We sent out a lot of valentines, some to bare acquaintances, just because he was so determined that they should be sent, and he received several, too, which pleased him immensely, and now watches closely for the mailman, hoping that there will be some coming yet. Well, kids, we up and did it. We watched sales, and then we just went out and bought us a television set. Lou said he was ashamed to write and tell you we'd bought it when we owed Jean and you money, but I said I didn't think you'd feel that way about it, considering the fact that we don't go out, and that we got it on sale besides. We've had it only 2 days and aren't yet acquainted with it very well. A friend of Lou's gave him a big outdoor antenna with the tape to use in attaching it, and he is going to make the braces to hold it on the chimney and do the installing himself with some help from the friend. We bought it without insurance, installation, or servicing in order to save the money, and with the antenna given to us, we have really saved too. The set is a 12.5-inch screen with daylight tube made by Bendix, but bears the name Wyndham, the name given by Strawbridge and Clothier, the dealers. It is a consolette in mahogany finished cabinet, and we paid $189 for it. We're just as tickled with it as we can be. Funny thing, too, Elizabeth and Bob decided they were going to buy one too, a gift from the Brown Senior, but they picked it out. And they picked the same set we did, only they bought the outdoor antenna, servicing, and insurance, and theirs cost them $269. Louis is delighted, and there are a great many children's programs for him to enjoy, puppets and marionettes that just nearly kill him. Especially any slapstick that comes along. He is strictly ham at heart, and he laughs until he gets the hiccups and can't make it to the bathroom. We in turn laugh so at Louis that everybody gasps for breath. There are lots of good things on, illustrated news, and discussions on the atom and hydrogen bomb that I just got the tail end of. There are lots of other things, too, that I'm not too much in favor of, Too many cowboy pictures of the long ago era, and we have been warned by other owners of sets and plan to ration such things right from the start. I can notice a definite eye strain, but they insist that as soon as the outdoor antenna is up, it will all improve, if not be absent entirely. I shall be anxious to hear what each of you has to say about it. Pull no punches, and ask any questions you like. I shall try to answer them.
They they say a lot of things, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But this I think, so this is some pretty exciting content.
Yeah.
Because she is getting a set. This is something new. This is very brand new. This is just coming out. When she said 12.5 inch, I'm looking at my monitor right now.
Yep.
I'm just like, But, yeah. Oh man. And then Elizabeth got one too. And so it was in a mahogany. Oh, I bet it was gorgeous. I bet it was just beautiful.
Yeah, they have them kind of built into the cabinets because we're so used to flat screens now. I mean, when I was a kid, a flat screen wasn't even a thing. And now the thought of like something not being a flat screen is just unthinkable completely because the weight of these. So they would build them into these cabinets. And I'm wondering like how deep back was the set? The other thing with the size of the screen, I'm pretty sure when you buy like, if you get like a 50-inch television today, it's measured on the diagonal. Yeah. I don't think that's the case back then. I think 12.5 inches means it was 12.5 inches wide.
Like across, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's possible that if it was on the diagonal, it was even like a little shorter there. The Pythagorean theorem works. Yeah, so wow. That's maybe the once and only time, unless Chester mentions it, that we might bring up Pythagoras. Anyway, but yeah, 12.5-inch screen, horizontal across, black and white. Antennas.
What is that even? I'm sorry. Like, what's 12 inches?
Yeah. Like, I have a ruler in my drawer. When my dad records his Chester, he goes to the page and he holds like a ruler against the line that he's on because Chester's reading. So, like, okay, just to put this, like, in the screen, we can see while I'm recording. This is 12 inches. So here we go. Ready? Here's the screen.
Screen to cut some of this out. Just went, I couldn't
wait for that 1/2 inch. Yeah. All right. It like the fact that this like fits on like the video camera, right? And we haven't talked about where they're gonna sit, by the way, in proximity, in distance to the screen.
Yeah, and she said there's eye strain. Well, of course there is. It's like this big.
But where are they sitting? See, now that's all big. There is like the story I heard. Back in the day, I worked at Blockbuster. It was fun. I loved working at Blockbuster. We had good times. Well, I remember hearing around that time period that actually the technical distance you're supposed to sit from a television screen is however big the screen is, that for the perfect picture, that's the distance you should sit back from it for like the immersive picture. So if you have a 50-inch screen, you should be sitting like 4 feet away, and then it creates the effect. Now, I don't know if that's actually a good idea. I would think that this would actually hurt your eyes to do, to sit that close to the screen. But if it's a 12.5-inch screen, I just have this image of like, you can't see it well unless you're actually a foot from the screen itself. And then this is going to dominate the living rooms. Like, this is the typical size at the time. So, like, you imagine, like, there's this couch and, like, a coffee table, and then they build it into a cabinet because you got to raise that from the floor. And it's just, like...
Wait, I mean, and that's the thing, too. So I remember the TVs, like, when they were built in the cabinets, they were on the floor.
Right.
This is probably, like, on legs, do you think?
Yeah, I would
think
it's cabinet? On a stand. I've seen pictures of some of these older ones. I have a picture of one of their televisions. I don't think it's this one, but it does have the legs. Yeah, okay. It's like in a
so cabinet. It's probably sitting up, and so they're able to sit and kind of see it.
Right. There's an indoor antenna. There's like rabbit ears of some sort on the back. And this is going to come in future letters so people can just visualize it now. And then there's the outdoor antennas. And she says there's insurance, there's servicemen, right, that are going to have to go up onto the roof and they have to adjust it. They need to get like, I forget how many channels. It's not many channels, right? This is network broadcasting. So they need to adjust it to make sure they can get the right picture. This just brings, there's so many kids now that will never understand adjusting it. I remember, like, I remember growing up and we were trying, I never had cable as a kid. My parents got cable when I was in college. So we had like 7 main channels. I can still list them out. And then there were the snowy channels.
And I don't think that yeah, like you said, that's
Yeah.
the other thing is there wasn't very many channels, and there wasn't like they didn't have that
Yeah.
industry yet. It was just developing. And Lou, being Lou, he's like, I'm gonna put that antenna up myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do all this myself.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's the kind of guy that would just do it, and
Right.
like one of those resourceful men that just is like, I'm gonna do it myself. And then Bob is like, I've got the money.
Yeah. So they paid
I'm
nearly
gonna have somebody
$100
else
more.
go and get there. But we know that like Jabil and Jalu
Right.
are pretty wiry little guys, so they can get up there. That's not a problem.
And I wanted to check the inflation calculator here just so we can get the cost of it. The set was $189. We know that Dit and Bob paid $269, I think they said. But if we go back to 1950, just to look at what that would equate to for this 12.5-inch screen. $2,600. They're paying $2,600 for that. But I mean,
I'm sorry, wait a second.
That's a lot for 12.5-inch screen with snowy.
They spent $2,600 on the TV. And televisions, and this was at the beginning of it, televisions did come down.
They did, yeah.
And it's really funny how you said about like how kids today will never know. My children, like I'll say things like that. I'm like, back in my day, like we didn't have, and they'll be like, yes, we get it back in my day, and then they make fun of me. I'm like, but you don't understand because you don't have that baseline.
Yeah,
you don't have that baseline to appreciate.
Right.
Like, because I remember my first apartment, I had rabbit ears on my TV. I didn't have cable. I didn't have money. I had an apartment. So they are never gonna have to like deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we also have to think about, we have to take ourselves back to this time period. This is not where you can record what was going on. If you missed it, you missed it. You never knew when this thing was going to sort of air again. The idea of like a TV guide and knowing what's coming out, other than the regular like news programming and the regular program that's weekly, that's very specific. We're not talking anything about the movies. She makes no mention of this, of course, because she didn't buy a VCR. Like, when did the VCRs come in? You missed the movie at the movies. You missed the movie. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So this is just like getting the day-to-day. And she talks about the big programs. Cowboy's really, really big for the kids. And that's why she's like, uh-oh. Wait a minute.
Yeah, she's already looking at it being like, ooh, I don't like these things. And I mean, I remember watching, what was it? Dun, 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 dun. What was that?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. I didn't watch enough of them. But yeah, that famous one. Somebody put it in
it was like back when I was 20, I used to watch that sometimes, like it would come on at like 9 o'clock.
One of the bigger shows like I watched, especially, and actually my memories of watching this show are with Sweetie, is Dr. Quinn. Right? So that kind of is like the what, right? Yeah. Look, when Dr. Quinn got married, I'm going to spoil this because it's so far down in the future.
Yeah,
when Dr. Quinn got married, spoiler alert, in the show, my parents were out, and Sweetie was taking care of my sister and I. And we wanted to celebrate with Dr. Quinn. So she baked a cake with us, a wedding, like not a full-on wedding cake, but like we iced it and everything. And we had a wedding party while Dr. Quinn got married, and and Grandma made this cake. I was New Year's Grandma, but like Sweetie made the cake and just went along with it, and we had like a wedding party too.
I'm so happy. Like, I mean, I love that. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is the cutest thing ever. That's so fun. This is very odd because we're with her, at this time. And you've been with her, but to like hear these stories, that really makes me even more excited to listen to the, the letters from the 80s and stuff. Bonanza.
Okay.
It was Bonanza. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we don't have to go visit that again, but, so they've had it long enough though to find these programs for Lewis to watch. And you said that you remembered that your dad said he remembered these programs.
He did. And get this. So I'm going to save it because it's part of next episode. But everybody tune in next week. We're going to tell you what shows specifically my dad still remembers that he watched, that the children watched back in the early 50s. And you can watch some of these episodes on YouTube. Some of them, the film historians have put the episodes up specifically from 49 and 50. Like, I've seen them up there. So we'll be getting into some of that content. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And then think about what this means to the world. And the radio was so huge. I was thinking about this before we recorded today, Jamie. There are a couple major moments in just history that I would say if we rewind, and we're going to take it further back than the 50s, we're going to go back 100 years, okay, from the 50s. So we're getting back in the middle of the 1800s. We talk about media coming into the home. The first big stuff for media was when photographs happened, right? The idea that you could capture the image. When the Civil War happened, because I got to go into I'm a Civil War historian, my mode here, I got to go there.
It's good.
But there's a phrase that's commonly used. There were famous photos that are still looked at today. They're known as the Brady photos of the Civil War, right? They're the ones where it's not just like a portrait. When they're out on the battlefield and they could see like what was happening on the fields. When those photos, they were put on exhibition in major cities. They said it was the first time a war was ever brought into someone's living room. Okay. So that's like the first time we start to see media making what's actually going on real for the common person. Now, of course, the Brady photos were not an exhibit in people's living rooms, but that was the phrase that was used. So if we take that phrase, making it available to someone's living room, let's fast forward to World War II. If you've ever seen the movie The King's Speech, if you missed The King's Speech, you have to go back and watch The King's Speech, because this is the first radio broadcast of the King to the people of England. When King George gave the famous speech. It's a phenomenal film anyway. But this is the first time that the people of England get to hear their ruler about what's going on. So if we think, if we put a timeline on it, okay, photographs in the different parts of the world making what's actually going on real for people. Now we can hear the voice. Now, not too long after, because that was, 39 for England. Now we're in 1950. And now you can see the president on the news in your living room. That's that's less than 100 years between Brady's photos of the Civil War and being able to see Harry Truman on the news.
That is incredible.
It's mind-blowing. And what that must have done, I always think about people that talk about, wouldn't it be interesting if someone from the past time traveled to the future? And I always think about, someone brought this up, it would be information overload, because the speed with which our brains process information today, we've been alive to know what it's like to have a television, even with snowy channels and things like that from the beginning, that they probably would not be able to cope with prior to the advent. And little things like eye strain just coming in, but just the idea of like the speed of information. Now, we don't have the patience of the past. We could use some of that.
The technology has advanced. The technology is jumping exponentially, because you think about like even cell phones,
right?
Like I when I was in high school, we had pay phones, and then like when I was in college, I had a cell phone. It's like very strange to go from that. It's very quick, but the technology has advanced, but the patience has definitely waned.
Yeah,
that does seem to correlate too. But you can't underestimate the importance of, like with the King's Speech, that many people hearing it at one time.
They heard their leader for the first time
all over, because you would have to travel to listen to him, and maybe you could hear him.
Right. Yeah. And now you can see the president. I mean, this is why when Roosevelt passes away, we looked at the funeral clip, we played it on the podcast.
I remember.
For a lot of people, that's the first time they have ever seen, like, the visualization of just hundreds of thousands of people on a screen. No one's ever seen that. No one's been able to paint that. There's like one famous World War I painting that attempted to get the scale of World War I from like a grouping of people. People are not used to seeing crowds of this nature and feeling that sense of community. Now, if we say, okay, Brady's the one that made the Civil War real and brought it into people's living rooms, and now we're seeing Harry Truman and all these guys brought into people's living rooms. Fast forward to today, it's no longer the living room, right? It's right in front of us in our face on the phone. And the next thing that's coming up, what do we keep hearing about? Things like Elon Musk and Neuralink. We're that close to just the direct feed being taken outside of the living room. The tech's amazing, but it's in all of the course of human history, when you think going back to like the pharaohs, and you think about technological advancement to today, I'm just using the pharaohs generally, of course, for the ancient days, right? A ton has happened to change the technological experience in about 150 years. That's unbelievable. Welcome to the age of Aquarius, everybody. It has officially started now. That is absolutely true. This is about technological advancement. So getting to these letters, I'm so excited because we can relate to this content so well today. But we're moving on to some more of the letter. But yeah. Television, huge.
We've all kept the flu bug alive, and I feel best most of the time, take sulfa, and seem to improve, and then the germ revives and repeats its dirty work. Jean, my mother taught me not to laugh at others' misfortune, but I did have a few yaks over your life's blood being wasted so wantonly in the penicillin shot. I've almost wished for some penicillin, asked Lou if he could give them to me, but he said definitely no, and goodness knows I must guard all my life's blood to fight the cold. I'm glad your acquaintances at work are pleasant. Have somehow felt your few letters to us were an indication that all was not well at work. Enjoyed your discussion of the bosses, but was surprised to hear that Mr. McMahon had turned out to be an A1 drip. Just shows to go ya. You can't judge a book by its cover. If you like it there, I'm sorry you were feeling a change when the girl comes back after her baby is born. But you're getting a wide variety of experience, just the same. So you've lost another tooth. I hate to hear that. I forgot to say that when I took Louis, I had the dentist look mine over, and he said they were in good condition, but they did need cleaning. I'm going to go back in the near future to have it done. They still seem healthy and do not bleed when I brush them, and to me that is still a lot. He said that Louis's teeth were good too, and if he could judge by his baby teeth, he thought his permanent teeth would be like mine, for which I devoutly thank God. For Lou's teeth aren't any too good. I was almost sure that the insured boxes would arrive safely, but I was, of course, interested to hear who got what, and so was glad to read what you wrote about it. I didn't think that Mama would be interested in the pajamas, but am glad she could use them. Didn't think she could wear the shoes, but am truly delighted that she can. As a matter of fact, I thought she would have to find some Suffer kid to use them, as I was sure they were too big for you or sister. Knew she could wear the white dress, if only on top of a regular dress in a hurry-up case. Hoped she could wear the blouse, and felt sure she'd like the little pin for any number of dress-up times. Can't imagine the blue skirt being too small for you, and think you could wear it, yet the gray dress would need a lot of doing to make it wearable, but am disappointed that you can't wear it. I thought M.A. would be pleased with the jodhpurs and hoped they'd fit her. Hope that sister can get some good from the other things. She did mention the blouses. I was almost ashamed to send the black suit, but thought that since it does wash and iron easily, that it might do some good for every day. I'm glad that Cookie liked the gown, knew the pants would be too long for Dee, but felt they were worth sending anyway. Wish I could have had a Tony when sister did. My hair is a fright. It goes along and looks pretty nice for a long time, and then all of a sudden it has grown out too long, and the curl has relaxed, and I'm left looking no better than a string mop. Yes, sir, I'd even let you butcher me like you did in Norwood, and believe me, sister, I can remember how panicked you were when I started cutting yours when you and Bill took the folks to Frank's house while Daddy was recuperating, and you looked better than I did. Jean is wicked with scissors sometimes, but I can't see myself trusting anyone else to give me a home permanent. To make matters worse, I'm getting a whole new crop of hair, as though I didn't already have enough to worry with. And I look like a mop from my ears down, and look like I had a crew cut from the ears up. Haven't had a thing done to mine since you gave me this one in July, when I came here. I'm glad that Blank is going to pay for the case you've been sweating out, and I am glad you'll get some income tax return too. We filed our return and think we should get almost $42. I hope. Yes, I've no doubt as to how you felt about the fire at the farm. Did you hear over the radio or read in the papers about a fire here in Hatboro, where an entire family of 5, one son remains alive only because he was in the Navy, died? He was a sailor, the daddy, at the base, and Lou knew him slightly, but we didn't go to the funeral, as it seemed too much like curiosity seekers, and I really didn't want to go anyway. What a terrible thing that was. Only a couple miles from us, but in a housing project. See how lucky we are that you were helped in time? You can't be too careful. I'm relieved that you did sell the calves, as I know Papa would walk out in bad weather to tend them, and worry when he couldn't.
So she said she's talking to Jean first, and I guess Jean must have lost a tooth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this one too, I wanted to bring this up because it made me laugh. So
Mm-hmm.
drip currently, and I feel
Yeah.
very funny saying this as a 45-year-old woman, drip refers to your fashion sense of your outfit or something. Like it's like your drip is
Yeah.
like
The
when you
A1
wear a
drip.
nice hat and you wear like a suit, or like my son was walking and he was like, I look pretty cute. He's like, I got my hat on backwards, I got my drip. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what is it means? So when she uses this drip and calls him an A1 drip, I was like, oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. It's different. It changed.
It's fun.
Something
It's well,
changed.
obviously, I think
Mhm.
drip, that is like, it's very new. Drip.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's a very new, like,
Yeah.
colloquial. It's not colloquial, it's topical. It's like
Mm-hmm.
topical slang,
Yeah.
and drip back then. And so it's very fun to like
Mm-hmm.
to get these like
Yeah.
terms, this slang in these letters and see
Mm-hmm.
how that kind of has changed over the years.
Yeah. Now, I remember my favorite piece of slang is actually going back to the 40s in one of the episodes where she explains to Jean the meaning of solid. That's still my favorite one. And she's like, it's solid. And then she gives a whole definition. And I'm like, yes. I actually looked that up recently. It's before she meets Lou. So it's in the spring of 43.
That
She's
is
at Cromwell.
early.
Yeah,
God.
she's with George at the time. That's the few episodes where she's with George. So it would have been right around like episode 11 or so. We get a lot of sort of back and forth. And then we hear at the very end of this portion that there's been this really big fire that happened in the area. And I went back and I'm like, if it's this big with something happening, that this had to be in the news. And it was in the news. I went and pulled the papers. And I'm actually, just for the sake of our viewers, you know what's interesting about the news back then is I feel that they were more graphic with what they described and then what they showed than they do today, which is kind of interesting that it was that detailed. So for the sake of keeping this video above board, I'm actually redacting a few phrases from the old newspaper. People want to really go hunt for the old newspaper, that's up to you. For what really happened. This one didn't have a photo, and I'm glad because the photos were very gritty with what occurred in this. But yeah, 5 and family burned to death in the home blaze at Lacey Park. So Lacey Park is one of these sort of more townhouses. She was thinking about moving to a Lacey Park. I think she mentioned Lacey Park. This is that exact area. It was a Navy man, wife, and 3 children die as fire sweeps the house in the federal project near Hatboro. So these are like NAS Willow Grove area, woman's trap. So basically what happened was this happens in the middle of the night. The woman runs out, and the neighbor, she reaches the neighbor with what's going on, re-enters the building to save the family, and they all perish, essentially, in the storyline that happens here. But this is very, very much in the papers. And yeah, just a big tragedy. But just very, very sad. The son survives because simply he's in another state. You know, and it gets pretty graphic in here. So
That is a really good point, that the journalism was a little bit more I don't want to say sensationalized, but it does seem like they were more inclined to give more information and to be truer to the story.
Yeah. They were blunt. They were really
blunt, but it was truthful. It was truthful. And I mean, also we have to remember that this is the way that people like got their news. So like I can understand like that the human nature wanting to see this, but also like reading through some of this.
It is rough. This is extremely, like, if I think of, because I remember thinking when I first looked at this, I'm like, whoa, this is a big level of detail. That's why I actually looked for an article that said what happened, still needing some redactions within the article. But it was one that didn't have a photo, because the ones with the photos were extremely, extremely disturbing. And it's like, I do not think they would be allowed to publish the photo in the news today that they were publishing back in the 50s. So as sad as this story is, it kind of gives an interesting view into journalism at the time and what was considered completely, standard for being published. Mind you, this is also a generation that has just come out of World War II.
Yeah.
Like, this generation is used to a lot of rough stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a reflection sort of the times. It's a rough tale, but she mentions it, and it was in the papers at the time there. The family's name, for those wondering, is the Morrow family, Morrow. So if you're looking this up in the news from end of January 1950 in Hatboro, that's where you're going to find it. So,
well, too, when Sweetie was discussing the programming that she was seeing on the TV and like saying how she didn't agree with some of it, and she thought it was a little much, and she was going to be rationing that kind of content.
Yeah.
But this content this is what you saw in the newspapers all the time.
Right. This is sitting home with the kids being able to grab the newspaper off the kitchen table.
Yeah, but like with the TV, she was a little bit,
It's media. It's the
it's
media of the time is very fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to see how she is reacting to the newest technology too. Like to see how like there is a little bit of like reserve with it too, because it's a new thing. It's like dipping your toes in the water, so it's really neat to see the juxtaposition of media here and like what we normally have like in this paper, and then what we would be seeing on the little itty bitty television sets.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But moving past this one, I just wanted to bring it up and be like to recognize this huge tragedy. It's a really sad story from 1950, but the way
and it gives us an idea too of like what Chester and Jean avoided in Iowa with the fire.
How grateful for that, just to be nobody hurt. He did something stupid. Could have gone a different way.
Yeah.
So you weigh 125. Well, just call me and D lard. I can't tell you what I weigh, because we have no scale, and because I always walk the other way when I see one. I keep promising myself another tomato juice diet, but don't seem to get the job done. Saw in the Popular Mechanics magazine a reducing suit for jockeys, where they can lose 5 pounds, and I'm going to write for information. 5 pounds an hour. Now, Mama's letter. Lewis was pleased with the valentine you sent, and reads and rereads them. I'm glad you could wear the shoes, just couldn't leave them laying when they had never been worn, and felt sure that you could find somebody in Lacona to put them to good use if our own family couldn't provide the right foot. Didn't think you'd be interested in the PJs, but I'm glad now that I took the trouble to wash them and send them on. Hoped the blouses would do for you, and felt ashamed of myself for not getting your housecoat made. Hoped even a second-hand one would do you some good. I envy you all your coats. Not really. That is, I don't covet any you may have, nor your luck in getting them passed on to you. But it seems strange to be on the giving end instead of the receiving end, as far as all the hand-me-downs and pass-me-ons are concerned. Seems funny to think or talk of snow when we haven't had any to speak of this year. Just once have we used Lewis's Christmas sled, and yet I can remember and visualize the snow we waded through last year to go feed the calves. I'm glad you sold them. For goodness sake, be careful of the ice. Let all the broken bones belong to patients, and not parents of mine. Can't be sure about a trip home this year. Aside from the time and garden, there is the money involved, and that is no small item to be considered. I'm not saying definitely no, nor am I saying definitely yes. We will just wait and see, and you must not make up your minds one way or the other either. We must wait and see. M.A., when I opened the letter, I did not recognize the handwriting, and was very pleased to find you had written to tell me about the jodhpurs. I am glad they did fit, and your writing me about them makes me very glad that I could send them to you, and I hope you get lots of good out of them. I hope the slippers would fit. I'm sorry they were soiled, but they were somewhat soiled when they were given to me. Guess you come closer to being a Cinderella than I do, for at least the slippers fit you, where they just gave me a sore toe. As I've already said, we've had such a little snow that Lewis has hardly used his new sled, but we have had plenty of rain. We're even getting water in our cellar, and that is not good. I'll bet Daddy Bill will be glad to take the car to work instead of walking. At least his car is in good running condition. Ours is sick abed in the garage, with something dramatically wrong with its insides. Speaking of new cars, I get red in the face and almost cry when I think of ours as compared to what Frank's new Ford will be. Don't begrudge it. Don't misunderstand me. Just drool a little at the thought. What will become of the old Willies? Seems about time she should be retired, on a pension to a nice warm garage, and yet I sort of hate to think of being parted from her forever, when I remember my fond memories. What a limousine. Sister, thought sure you'd take longer to read my last epistle, and here I've an answer already. You said the folks sold their beef. Thought they were butchering and storing in the deep freeze in Lacona again. Somebody set me straight, will you? Did you get any good out of my talking about our food and meals here? I'm somewhat old-fashioned, and until now have stuck by the soaps used does most of the time. Though Consumer's Report calls it a built-up soap, too. Your last letter prompted me to try it on Monday, my next wash day. My finances are such that I shall use the good old wind for drying, and I iron as little as the law allows, so I have put the dryer and ironer into the sometime day dread class. I haven't ordered flowers and seeds as I hoped to by now, but feel there is still time for that. I'm not going in for houseplants to speak of, but may change my mind later on. I find that Henry Field still makes the best offer on seeds, and after sending for a multitude of catalogues, I have about decided that I'll order long distance yet. I've been interrupted many times and must stop now to get at least some work done, so that I can start supper. We run a race these last couple of nights to get supper over and the dishes done, to enjoy the puppets with Louis, and I'm going to have to get into low gear if I expect to make the grade tonight. I sure haunt the mailman as soon as I've sent a letter on its way to you, and hope my efforts bring gratifying results. Love to all of you. Sweetie.
That was very lovely.
Yeah, we get a lot of like just the domestic life, and we get some brands being mentioned, things that she's doing around the home, the washing, the drying. I mean, a lot of people, she's just gonna say, I'm gonna save everywhere I can. My mom, I don't even think it's for saving. She puts everything out on the line, basically. Like, she avoids using the dryer just for the energy and everything else that goes into it. Now she's expending a lot of energy going out and hanging stuff, but that's how we grew up. Like, so this is not unusual. Yeah.
Well, with that too, the routine of hanging up laundry, and actually the routine of doing anything that requires kind of just mindless work, is actually very good for you.
Yeah.
It's like nice to get, things done. Sometimes, like if I'm like in a bad mood or something, I clean. And it just like lifts my spirits, it's like, oh, everything's clean now. It makes you feel better. So you got to think about that too.
Speaking of that, by the way, since you mentioned that, at the beginning of this letter, just as like a teaser, because this might come up again, she mentions the dust is around. She mentions that the dishes are still in the sink. And so Sweetie has some chores kind of lying around. I don't know if all of the family members are going to approve of her writing the letter before she gets to them. Hint, hint, listen to next week's letter.
Ooh, just teasing the next episode. But I do like how too she's like I actually really like that the way she phrases stuff, and she says, I have to get into low gear if I expect to make the grade.
Yeah.
Why is she so funny? And she's like, I need to get all this done because we want to sit down and watch the puppet show. Like her and Lou probably want to sit down after dinner, and that's when the puppets are, and enjoy that with him. See, so it's already starting to pay off having this new TV. They have like something that they can do together in the evenings. And also, it's really fun. They're exploring and learning about this together.
Yeah.
Like, I really like this letter. This was really nice.
Yeah, this is a big update letter. So there's just a lot going on. I just still can't get past it. The television's the most amazing thing. Is like this marks a turning point. Media's changing. What an exceptional thing. And for her to document it so well. I don't know if we've seen, I know I personally haven't read a better account of someone, of just the average person, exploring, checking things, describing the process and the impact, and already somehow, just right after getting it, realizing like, wait a minute, we might have to ration things so immediately and be right on top of that going on and what this means to the world. It's just a great description. So I love that conversation.
Well, she often, and not in just this letter, but previous letters, has mentioned Consumer Reports.
Right.
So she does her research.
Yeah.
Like the research that she can do, she's like, she writes to companies and but she reads Consumer Reports a lot.
She does. And then the seed catalogs right at the end, there it comes in again. She ordered all these different seed catalogs, and she's like, I think the best deal is still with Henry Field.
She's just really good at just researching and like, and she definitely like educates herself before she makes decisions. It's really cool to see her personality and like see how these things come out and explore this, like you said, learning about a family getting a TV and the whole process.
It's phenomenal. that whole process. We can see it. And then we're all going to be thankful that the screens are no longer 12 and a half inches. Thank goodness. Like so.
But that was our third letter. And it is nice. This is a very nice kind of palate cleansing letter from the mega letter for Chris's last episode. So yes, but that was our last letter for today.
Well, everybody, I hope you tune in next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Love Sweetie podcast. The next episode is called, speaking of puppets, The Man Who Makes the Marionettes Work. So I think we're going to hear more about that in next week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. As always, check out our website, www.lovesweetiepodcast.com, and we'll see you next week.